Unsyndicated presents Off the Air with Sean Baligian.
Glad you could join us. He is Blake, of course, courtesy of 760 WJR Mitch Album Show and Sports Rap. I am Sean. Blake, football can't come quick enough, man. I know how this is going to work. I do. And we've even talked about it the last couple of weeks. This last stretch, this 22 days until college football starts is miserable. Absolutely miserable, man. I can't stand it.
How much of the Hall of Fame game did you? I know you were doing a show during part of it.
I watched, basically the first hour of it. It's what, doesn't it always seems like it always lightnings and thunders at that game? Right?
And the field is always in the worst condition possible. I don't
amazing.
get it.
It's amazing. Like every year, it just seems like that's the routine, man. I don't
it really
whatever.
Is. And yeah, there's always a delay. There's always something going on. It was weird though that it wasn't, because I'm so used to it being on NBC.
Yeah,
it was on ESPN last night. That was weird. Just for my brain, I'm instantly Tirico and Collingsworth or whoever is calling the game. That's just where my brain goes.
No,
and that didn't go that way last night.
No, I get it. And you know what? Like I said, I was just happy to watch some football for a little bit. Happy Friday to you as well, Bill. I was just happy to watch football. And I think a lot of people are like that. And, it's going to be the same routine. I can't wait to watch the Lions next Thursday. I'm not going to lie to you. But at the same time, this is another one of those bits I go through every year. I have to make a concerted effort to stay off of social media for maybe the first few hours after a game, because just the people that live and die on what is happening in these fake football games, especially in the fourth quarter in the crunch. And I've had these conversations with educated people that have been in the media for a long time. I'm not going to name any names, and they're all agitated about what they saw in the fourth quarter. And I go, dude, nobody on the field is going to be on either team.
This year, it's even worse.
Oh, it's going to be miserable.
It's because I'm saying this out of a place of I'm forced into the limo as you forced me in against my will. I'm so sick of the Lions hype train. I'm sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of sick of hearing about every single practice about how Jake Bates can't make a kick and how the defensive line, even though they don't have Kaminsky, looks really good. And these DBs look really good in practice. It's practice. Okay? I get on the field. I don't need the hype train right now. I need the hype train going into week 1. Then give it to me. I don't need it yet.
Do you know what I worry about though, friend? These are the things. These are the little things that I worry about. Okay, I know that everybody has already given Jake Bates the job.
He's not getting the job.
See, I feel the same way.
No way. He missed weight because, of course, all I heard about today is how many kicks he missed at practice today. He missed PATs.
Dude,
you can't miss PATs at practice and get the job.
Sorry, I needed to drink.
That was a good slug.
Yeah, did you like that? No, dude, listen. There is a reason a guy like that has, no pun intended, kicked around and ended up with the Michigan Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fantastic that he's got the length. That's great. That's a big difference between, I say this all the time, and Blake, you know this, even 10 years ago, forget 30, 40 years ago where we were oohing and ahhing when guys went out and routinely hit 48, 49-yard field goals, okay? In the last 10 years, we've gotten to a point where, you no longer go, whoa, when a dude bangs a 55-yarder.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't. It's commonplace now. So yes, in that regard, a guy like Bates, I get it. We've seen him bang some. When you can't hit field goals, you're not going to keep a job. Like, even forget about the extra points. You know I'm feeling you. You know I'm with you. But when you are going 8 of 14 and you're missing from 42 and 35 and 39, you can hit 5 55-yarders. That's great. But if you're missing that many kicks, dude, you're not going to have a job for long. You're not.
Consistency is key. You
Yeah.
have to be consistent or you're not going to make it.
Nope.
And like I said, the hype train is so big and it's everywhere. I can't avoid it. Like I know it's what you talk about. It's crazy season. I get it. But this year it's times a million because they're legitimate contenders. And so it's ramped up to level 99.
Hold that thought for a second. I'm so glad to hear you say that. And you guys know the bit. Blake isn't really a big Lions fan. I forced him onto the limo. So to be honest with you, I'm going to defer to a guy like Blake more because I know how I am. I try my darndest to be fair and all of that. But just once, one time, I swear to God, they can torture me for the next 50 years. Just one. That's all I'm asking for. That's it. I swear to God, I am not greedy. One time, let me go to my grandfather's grave and do a Super Bowl shuffle and say it wasn't a waste of time. Honestly, I'm honest to God. Once, go back, have another gosh damn era like the 80s. Go back and have another era like the decade of despair. I couldn't give two craps. Once, just one time. That's it. Once. I don't think it's asking much. I want to get back to that.
Why
Bill,
is everyone being mean? I'm not being like I just said that they're legitimate contenders.
they are.
Why is everyone mad at me in the chat?
Well, we're going to get back to that in a second. Okay, we're going to get back to that in a second. Preseason is brutal. Bill, I'm with you. I'm so desirous of football right now. When these games are on, I watch them. I point blank. I mean, you're always going to watch the Lions, right? I think we can all agree on that. But if I'm sitting at home, I'm just going to watch them. I mean, we see what's happening with the Tigers already. Wow, stunner. Blake said, Eric said, yo, Blake, Shawnee B, what's up? Skydog, I remember that Michigan game with Notre Dame being delayed by lightning. Is it just me or is it getting more and more like baseball? We've seen more of that in recent years. When I was doing, and I'm going to be doing games again, like for the State Champs Network and the MHSAA, it always seemed to me like a lot of prep games I did in the past that happened to, and then they would have the 30-minute rule. And then there was one season with Wayne State. Maybe 2017. It was weeks in a row. Whether we were in, Midtown Detroit at Tom Adams Field, or we were at Indy, or we were at Tiffin, it was like weeks in a row. We got into lightning things, and a couple times at Michigan State early in the season. I remember one time. I think there was the Western game, and then there was the Florida Atlantic game. That one was a big, a big debate. And so it does seem like we see more and more of that. But honest to God, maybe Blake, maybe I'm out of my. It seems like this happens every year with the Hall of Fame game.
I was at Jim Harbaugh's first game when Michigan played Western, and that game got called early because of weather.
I remember that. Yes.
I was there, and it was brutal. I met Mike Martin's parents at that game.
Aww.
It was a beautiful moment. It's a young Blake.
Bates Motel is about to have some vacancies. Chair, who was ever playing Baltimore, helps the Pinstripes. Blake, no matter what, Blakely isn't coming back, but thanks to the Packers, they can get Turner back. Bates is great kicking at an empty Ford Field. Stop player hating, Blake, as Bill said one time. Skydog said, Sean, remember when you used to say, enjoy the ride? Maybe you can take your own advice. Not about the Lions. No. Mm-mm. Not about the Lions. No way. Once. My criteria with the Lions is once. Like I just once. That's it. I swear to God, I'll
And then
never
after that, you will enjoy the ride.
I will never complain about them again. Ever. I will never.
Okay.
I will never complain about them again. Never.
I don't believe that.
I won't. I'm telling you.
Because you know what'll happen? You'll be like, I want more.
Listen, no.
Everybody always wants more.
Nope. They have tortured my life in ways I can't even describe. Listen, I'm not being funny. This is a true story. And I used to talk about this back in the day on both television and radio. When I was doing the post game, I don't even remember what miserable year it was. 06, maybe 07. I would come home from work, and get home around 6:30, 7 o'clock, whatever the case may be. And I kid you not, it made me feel guilty. The kids would kind of see me and kind of like, I don't want to say cower because it wasn't like I was smacking them around or anything like that, but what kind of mood is daddy in? And I remember, honest to God, and this is my only saving grace about the 08 season. Like I literally said, this was my bit all the time. I took the power back. I'm not going to allow you to ruin my Sundays anymore. I'm not going to stop caring. I don't believe in the Lions free and I'm not a fan anymore stuff. I couldn't turn it off like that. There's no possible way I could turn it off. No way.
You're a real fan.
But the difference was I was not going to allow them to ruin my Sundays anymore. And if it got to a certain point in time in the game where you knew where it was going, guess what? It was time to escape to the sanctuary and freedom of the cider mill.
Mm-hmm.
Like, honestly, it was because in that one particular year, 08, I didn't have to do the post-game show anymore. So I would be watching a game, and that year, more often than not, it was about 2 o'clock, and it was just time to go do something else. And I'd smile, put on the fake smile, and I'd say to the kids, who wants to go to the cider mill? I wasn't going to allow them to ruin my Sundays anymore. So, to that point, Skydog, and he said, is it because the other three have won titles in our time? Yeah, I think that's probably part of it when you put it that way. Yeah, I think that's probably part of it. But with the Lions, they've ripped your heart out so many different times. It's like a different entity unto itself.
And football's different.
Yeah.
It's the biggest.
Yeah.
So that changes it a little bit too.
I just, honest to God, I was talking, my buddy Joe in Windsor, we were talking about this the other day. And I said, that's my mantra now, just once. And I'm not one of those guys, I don't shy saying what you just said. The Lions are a legitimate contender. 100%. I believe it. I'm not being a fan. That's why, again, Blake, I say to you, I defer to a guy like you who, it doesn't have that emotional investment yet that some of us do. Do you know how many times in my life I've had friends and family going, dude, what are you doing? And like I said, the stuff with my grandfather's true. He told me that Thanksgiving 1980. Blake, I'm not even sure your parents were born in 1980. But I remember that playing like Thanksgiving 1980. He's like, Sean, don't do this to yourself. They're just going to let you down. You can't get upset about games like this. They're never going to win in your lifetime. You just have to accept that. Right? And my brain doesn't work that way. I refuse to believe that. And how many times, Blake, have you heard some Lions are never going to win? They're going to never win. And
that was me. You're talking to one. I was that guy.
I hate it. I hate it I've said this 1,000 times. Let me make it 1,001. Okay. You know how you change the trajectory of your program or your team? You bring in the right people who bring in the right people. and I'll go down. The New Jersey Devils were known as a Mickey Mouse organization. The Detroit Red Wings were the dead things.
Mm-hmm.
Who the bleep were the Golden State Warriors, right? Michigan State football going to win multiple Big Ten championships. Oh, I hope you guys remember 87. It's never going to happen again. Right? Hell, you know what, guys? The Michigan Wolverines. Yeah, I think there were a lot of people that were spewing that stuff, right?
What was his name? The Domino's guy? Dave Brandon, that era.
It's amazing. And nobody, Ohio State's head and shoulders better than everybody.
Buy 2 Cokes, get a free set of tickets.
How'd that work out? So
people like, I agree with you. You get the right people in place and you can actually build a program. Yes. 100%.
And I'll say it again. Nobody in this town has a credit line like Brad Holmes right now. That dude's credit line is.
We're living in an upside down world.
It really is.
It's so weird. But I agree.
Bill said that was 1980 tough love from Shauner's grandfather. True story. I mean, for you guys old enough, Blake, seriously, I have to tell it again, okay? Because I it's in my head and like I want to cry. The Lions are leading the Bears all game. The Bears score on the last play of the game. Vince Evans, terrible quarterback. Vince Evans scores a touchdown on the last play of the game. The game goes to overtime. The Bears return the opening kickoff in overtime for a touchdown. I'm 10 years old. It's Thanksgiving. I'm devastated. To make matters worse, everybody at my grandfather's house is laughing. They're all laughing. It's funny to them. And you know how it is when you're like a little kid. You could not funny. So I'm like, Grandpa, why is this funny? And you'll understand when you're older. Just don't get your hopes up. They're never going to win anything. They're just a bad franchise. And I was like, I can't believe that. I can't. You know what? He hasn't been wrong for 44 years.
44 years later, here we are. No, but am I wrong to be like, no, I'm just over it. Like, go play the games. Go show me that the defense is fixed.
I hear you. No,
like
I'm
just sick. The hype train is so ramped up, and it's everywhere. It's unavoidable.
Yep, that's exactly it. So, and honestly, I'm at the point in time right now where, I can't get enough college football because we are. I know that we're Blake. You and I have talked about it so much, and that's like. Blake and I, that is our default mode. We just press a button and then all of a sudden we're off on a tangent about college football. But this is the strangest year that any of us have ever seen, and we don't even know it yet. Like, this is going to be the strangest year that any of us have ever seen. Like, we know it, but we don't know it, you know? Yeah. And there's going to be, much like we've been talking about the last few weeks, and I won't use Michigan as an example. There's going to be a really good 9-3 team that has a really good resume that's going to be sitting on the outside looking in one of the big conferences. Count on it. Like that's now we don't live in the world anymore where, unless you're Michigan State's out of conference schedule's awful. Okay. When at BC is the tough one, you know. But all jokes aside, okay. We're going to see more and more of this as big boys playing. We're going to see Texas and Michigan. We're going to see more of these games. So I don't want to go as far as to say it's an elimination game. Okay. I don't want to say that. Last year, Blake, I remember you and I talking about LSU and Florida State. And I told you before the season, I said, if Florida State pulls that game off, okay, that might be a free pass all the way to the championship game.
Like the ACC was so bad.
Nobody was there. Yeah. So, you know, I don't want to go as far as to say like Texas and Michigan's an elimination game, but
it's got college football playoff implications
all over it.
Yeah. I love the early season implications game. I love that.
Yep. Michigan did it better than anyone else because they have been where the Lions are now many times, 73, 85, 16, or 17. Those are just a few off of the top of my head. I remember that 85 Michigan team. That was a very likable team. I think
That's
they
coming
finished
from a Spartan fan.
I liked that team. I did. That I think they finished 10-1-1 that year, number 2 in the nation. They went to the Fiesta Bowl and beat Nebraska. I think that's somebody. You guys can fact check me if you want. But and that's when Lorenzo White had the super year for Michigan State. I mean, any other year he'd be in a serious conversation. That year it just wasn't going to happen. Bill said, "Go ahead."
No, go ahead.
Bill said Shauner wasn't ready to subscribe to becoming a pessimistic Lion fans at 10 years old. Old true convictions. I listen. True story. If Jack, if you're in the chat, you can vouch for this. I don't know if Jack is. When we went to the Lions-Buccaneers game in 2008, the infamous 0-16 season, when we went to the Lions-Buccaneers game, the Lions jumped out to a 17-0 lead. And I knew the Lions were awful. I knew the Lions were bad. But this was a different just one. I was at that point in the time in the season where you looked at the schedule and you're like, okay, maybe they can beat Tampa. Maybe they can beat the Vikings. They're not going to beat the Colts. They're not going to beat New Orleans. So you knew that we were on a march to indignity, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And in that game, if you guys can remember, the Lions jumped out to a 17-0 lead. And my son and I are, back then I would, like one day I would do the TV pregame show and then I'd go, I'm just going to go be dad during the game. I'll see you after the game. I'm all fired up. Yeah, it's 17-0. It's 17. Yeah, we're finally going to get one. I shit you not.
Yeah.
I crap you not. Jack looks at me at the tender age of 9 years old and goes, Dad, it's only 17-0. Like, it's the Lions. And Tampa went and blew them out the rest of the way. I think it was 35-17. 35-17. Like, just maybe 38-17. So I've always been that guy. I openly admit it. And it's funny when I hear people say, back in I was so negative during the Joey Harrington era. Well, there was reason to be negative, right?
No, you're just honest. It's not negative. It's just being honest.
Yeah.
People can't comprehend that.
It's your job. Do you know how many times I hear you're a Lions fan or you're a Spartan fan? How can you say that? It's so stupid. It's so, I got to do my job, man.
Yeah.
I got to tip my cap to the Michigan Wolverines. Seriously. You got no choice. That's your job. That's
what I get frustrated about with people. There is people in this industry that are just slappies and they can't be people that can't be critical of the Lions, even though this hype train's going on. And it is. I get it. But you still have to be able to be critical.
You do.
Like I said the other day, I don't like their defensive line depth. And all that's been coming out of camp is how great their defensive line is.
Edge.
Yeah.
Edge.
Yes.
And
I don't like it.
I agree with you.
But, the hype train is so big. Oh, their DNs are looking great at camp. I don't care. Get on the field. Play the game.
Do you know what bid I'm getting really tired of is the disrespect bid? I am. I'm getting I'm getting like.
You mean the team that made it to the NFC Championship is feeling disrespected?
And in particular about individual players when you see these rankings and all that. It's just like, come on, you guys won the division. You won 2 playoff games. You went to the NFC Championship card. It might be time to drop that.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you. Can I call out my own? Yeah. I think after 2013, when a lot of Spartan fans were playing the disrespect card, it got a little old. There were some fans that were never going to give them credit. I get that. They were few and far between, but it was like the unsilent minority. You know what I mean? I mean, very, very
Yeah.
vocal, very loud, had to take their shots. And it was just like, dude, if you can't see what's going on, I don't know what to tell you. But I think the disrespect thing went along to a little too far. Ohio State's hardest out of conference game is worse than State. Pick from Akron or Western Michigan. Yeah. Mick Mays, you are correct. Just hoping in the Lions case this isn't a Boogie Benson New Orleans Saints. And then he fact-checked me. Thank you. Yes, they beat Nebraska January 1, 86. It was 27-22. Yeah, it was a good – Michigan finished number 2 in the nation that year. It was a pretty good team. You know, Harbaugh's junior year. That was a pretty good team. Pretty good team. During the Lions 0-16 season, my brother and I went to the Saints game. Oh, that was awful. The Saints didn't punt a single time. 16-16 on third down attempts. Absolutely astonishing to watch. The one that sticks out to me was Thanksgiving. Like the Saints game was bad. The Packers game was bad. But do you remember Thanksgiving that year? Chris Johnson ran for like 155 yards. And then Lendale White, who was like a bowling ball, and probably no disrespect, probably 50 pounds overweight, started getting all the reps, and then he ran for like $150.
Mm-hmm.
They simply couldn't stop the run. Like in the National Football League. It was like the strangest thing.
Lendale White, the forgotten USC running back.
Jeez.
People forget he played with Reggie Bush. He was a touchdown vulture for Reggie Bush.
Yep. The dude with the Fire Millen sign, people with the bags over their heads. Genghis said I worked at Ford Field during that season. Skydog said, is Michigan your Stafford's Rams? I don't understand.
I don't either.
Yeah. Give me the context about that.
Yeah.
I'll never go against the boys Lions. I may say they suck, but I never go against them. I'm old enough to remember Drew Sharp picking Michigan to go 8-4, and they started 14th in the nation. That's what I'm talking about. It's like, Blake, in years gone by, I can say I have bought in on the Lions twice in my life, really and truly, twice in my life. In 91, you couldn't help. You're just going to have to take my word for it. That was just one of those magical alignment things where everything came together, and, they finished 12-4. And I know I told you the story. My buddies and I drove to Buffalo for that last game, and the game didn't mean anything to Buffalo. And these guys, we partied with those guys, and they were like, we're not going in. You want our tickets? Define want. Well, you can have them. Okay. That sounds cool. And you can't replicate that. And the Mike Utley and the thumbs up. And then, like I said, 92, you kind of knew right away. And then 95, I was talking with my buddy Terry Foster about this today. And 95, Blake, for those of you guys that won't remember, they were 3-6. It was my first year in the media. There was literally a Wayne Fonts watch. Like, okay, this is it. And then they went on a 7-game tear where they just didn't beat teams. They were pummeling teams. And I think the last one was 44-0 against Jacksonville. And I literally was driving home from the game, and I was listening to one of those national, call-in shows. And these dudes were openly talking about not the Dallas Cowboys, not the San Francisco 49ers, but the Detroit Lions are the most dangerous team in the NFC. And I remember it plain as day. I was going, yeah. And then we know what happened in that game against Philly. Just gross. Terry's doing very well, by the way, Eric. I'll say hello. Terry's a good man.
By the way, before we get too far from college football, because I saw this all over my timeline today, did you see Oregon's new throwbacks?
No. Do you have a picture of it?
I'll pull them up.
Find a picture.
They're awesome.
Skydog said, I thought the 51-7 game with the Eagles was coming. That was in 97. No, it was after 95. They went on that 7-game streak. Like I said, it was my first year in the business. And I still don't know why to this day, but this grizzled veteran by the name of Tom Kowalski constantly referred to me as kid and kind of took me under his wing. And I'll never forget that. And then who knew? Years later, he and I would do a radio show for a few years, and he'd become a good friend of mine. But Yeah, beer company. Yeah, we hung out at the beer company a year or two. Yeah, that was great. Let me see this. Dude, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a sharp look.
Yeah.
Most of their jerseys make me puke in my own mouth.
These are sick. Like the duck on the shoulder.
I like that.
How weird is it seeing the Big Ten logo though?
It is weird. Did you see the new Big Ten commercial today, by the way?
I did.
I want to live in
Oh, I love that commercial. I love it.
They came out with the new one with now showing they start out in
in the West Coast,
the great West Coast. I think Lion fans pull for Stafford because they thought it'd be the closest the Lions come to a Super Bowl title. Similar can be said of Michigan versus MSU because they're in the same state. I do not get the Detroit Rams crap. I like Matthew Stafford. I do. I liked Matthew Stafford, the player. I like Matthew Stafford, the person. I wish him nothing but the best. But the Detroit Rams stuff, you and I talked about it last year. I don't get it. I'm sorry.
No.
I don't get it. I got nothing there, man. I don't, and especially then when you play them last year, it's like, I remember I tweeted something out like, you better burn all that gear. All that stuff that you bought just a couple of years ago. Why don't you have a big fire tank and you can burn all that gear? So, no, but listen, I'm going to get to a read in a second. We as Lion fans, I think it's easier for the younger generation, Blake, as opposed to my generation, okay? My generation, we always pause because we've seen too much shit in our life. We've seen too much crap in our life, right? We always, I think the younger generation who hasn't seen as much crap in their life are usually more optimistic.
But okay, I see where you're going, but I've in my lifetime, I've just never seen them be good.
Oh,
that's why I was never a fan.
I think there's a big difference. And I remember talking to you about this last year. I used you and my son as an example. My son's formative years, kids in his hometown made fun of him for being a Lions fan.
Mm-hmm.
That's real. 7 years old, coming home from school, crying because kids 30 miles away from Ford Field, mind you, were making fun of him for being a Lion fan. You guys have seen some crap. Make no mistake about that. You've seen some crap, all right? You've got about a 500-yard stare.
Yeah.
Old timers like me have that 1,500-yard stare.
No, for sure.
We've watched.
At least you've seen little blips.
Oh, no
good.
question. I was at the playoff game. I was at the playoff win. You guys haven't seen crap.
No.
You have seen. I'm going to use my son as an example. Okay, my son has seen until last year. He watched the Lions get crucified by the Saints. Mm-hmm. He watched them get screwed against Dallas. He watched them in one of the most boring football games ever, that game against Seattle. Remember the wild card game against Seattle in 2016? He's seen 0-8, 0-16. Dude, it's insane. Yeah. It is. It's really insane. But I think when you're younger, you don't become as jaded. And even though, I never became jaded, I firmly believe it's going to happen one year. I think that 1 year could be this year. And I mean that. I know that. I say that even knowing that Patrick Mahomes has air in his lungs. Because as long as Patrick Mahomes has air in his lungs, you have to worry about that guy winning a Super Bowl. I'm sorry. You do.
Well, I don't think it's about
possible.
the Patrick Mahomes stopper.
I don't think it's possible to overrate that guy. I'm serious. No. It's you want to talk all about catering?
I would love to.
All About Catering LLC is a full-service caterer, graduations, weddings, bridal showers, corporate events, anything you need catering for, from 25 to 4,000 people. All About Catering can and will take care of you. They took care of me and my family. Customer service and satisfaction is their number one goal. So don't sweat your next big event. Just go to allaboutcateringllc.com today to see their menus and all their 5-star reviews, or give them a call 586-731-1398 to get your event started. Thanks to Rick and the gang about that. Blake, I'm really glad to hear you say that. I kind of thought that you might yell at me and call me a slappy.
Well, you are.
There's nothing like, yes, I really truly think that the Lions are going to win the NFC. I'm not willing to say go win a Super Bowl yet, but yes, I really, really, truly think the Lions are going to win the NFC. I'm also cognizant enough to know that there are some things that I'm worried about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not going full Legoland, but yeah, there's nothing wrong with thinking, why not the Lions this year? There's nothing wrong with that.
What? Okay, and I'm not trying to be negative. I want to.
No.
I'm not trying
to. Get ready. Jason, get ready. I want full attack if this is mean.
What would constitute? You say that you expect them to be at what's like the bare minimum that you expect them to be? NFC Championship game? Is that the bare minimum?
Yes.
Okay. At what point would you be disappointed then? First round playoff loss?
If they let me play the scenarios out in my head. Let's say they go 10-7. They don't win the division.
Okay.
They're a wild card team and they lose in the first round. Yes, I would be disappointed.
Win the division, lose first round, would you be disappointed?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably.
See, was that mean or I'm just genuinely asking?
No,
okay.
That's not
Thank
mean.
You.
No. Probably. Yeah. Okay, guys, we went 13-4. Isn't this great? And then you host a playoff game and you lose at Ford Field. I'd probably vomit out of my nostrils and drink heavily that night.
Okay, now I'll ask him in a mean way. What if you get the bye and then lose first round? Like,
can you, Tony?
That was mean. I'm sorry.
Gosh, son of a...
That was mean. I'm sorry.
Jeez.
I had to ask it though.
Jim said, "What's on Blake's cap?" The Chicago Cubs.
Go Cubs, go!
John's
Jason favorite song.
Awful song.
They stink. So who cares?
Oh, I hated that song. There were a couple of no Blake love for Romo, or am I late to the party? Blomo forever. Don't think we can be more jaded than the Browns fans. Imagine seeing the Lions leave town and win the championship a few years later. Talk about pain. Blake, did you know my first year in the business was 1995? And you know how I talked about I went all to the Lions games? I went to a couple Browns games that year as well because I was working in Toledo. And when they made the announcement that the Browns were leaving, can you imagine that, dude? Like, honestly. And even though I was a couple hours away in Toledo is strange in the regard that I don't want to say it's half and half Browns and Lions, but there's a hell of a lot of Browns fans there.
Mm-hmm.
And Michigan, Ohio State was about half and half. And it was I always called it the front lines. It was Michigan or Ohio State week was fun for me. It was hate week, and I didn't give two craps because I don't have a horse in the race.
Yeah.
So I'd try to fan the flames with both of you.
Of course you would.
It was great.
Of course you would.
Are you kidding me? I didn't give two craps. I'm not joking. It was like 2 days of just person after person after person calling in. And it was like, I don't mean to sound morbid. It was like a funeral. It was like a wake. Yeah. And I'm not crapping you. My heart broke for those people. Could you imagine having your team taken away like that? Yeah, I know they got a new team 4 years later, and yay, I was at the Hall of Fame game that year when they came back. But, dude, that's heartbreaking.
I mean, you could take the Pistons away. I don't think anyone would care.
Yeah, you would.
No,
Yeah,
me.
you-
I would.
maybe
No, I
not
wouldn't.
you. Your generation has seen nothing from them.
No, yeah, exactly. Well, I saw 04. I was 11.
Yeah. Do exactly the same thing as last year, right down to blowing the big lead in the NFC Championship. Okay, I'd be pissed at that too.
Yeah.
Isn't that a nice
That's
problem to have? You win 2 playoff games and you're pissed. It's kind of a
yeah,
nice problem.
you know, because we were talking Browns and this just popped into my head. Has there been like a greater like comeback to glory moment for any Browns player, but especially Browns quarterback than Baker Mayfield?
Yeah.
Like legitimately, like I didn't understand why they got rid of Baker for Deshaun Watson in the first place. Like I know he had a rough years last year at Cleveland, but he was also playing with like literally one arm tied behind his back because his shoulder was so messed up.
Yeah.
And like he laid it all on the line for them, and then they just ditched him for Deshaun freaking Watson, who has not had a good year since like his second year in Houston, and got paid all that money and all that guaranteed money and everything. It's just like they didn't realize what they had. Like they
Right.
had a like I like Baker. I like everything about him. I think his personality is awesome. I never got it.
Yeah.
Like, but that also comes back to like the Lions and their quarterback carousel that they had up till Stafford. Like, I feel like you can kind of make some connections there.
There was in the early 80s, there was a guy, I'm showing my age, I don't give two craps. Brian Sipe was pretty good. Then Bernie Kosar had some moments. You know, I mean, the most unorthodox thrower in the history of mankind, but he had some moments. But yeah, you're right. I'm just embrace Sean's bosom. Scott Stapp, arms wide open. Come on, get in here. Got Highway 2 as the connection, I think, between Toledo and Cleveland. Yeah, that was the way to Cedar Point. Instead of taking the turnpike, you just get off at Oregon and you drive.
Sean, do you remember 3rd and 24?
3rd and 24
versus Minnesota.
What year was that? Why there have been so many moments like that. I don't. Yeah, honestly,
I saw it in the chat like
there have been
times,
so many.
so.
I remember there was a 3rd and 27, I think, against the Eagles one year. Right? I mean, there have been so many moments like that. That's what I'm talking about. You're just like 1,500-yard stare. Jim is right. Half Browns fans, half Lion fans, half Steeler fans. It's yeah, I'd say it's about a third. But I'll tell you that day, Jim, I don't know if you remember, we had 2 days in a row where it was just Brown fan after Brown fan after Brown fan. And it was like somebody died. My heart was breaking. I'm not even being funny, right?
It was apparently the 0-16 season.
A Minnesota game, really? The home game? Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. 4th and 24 was the 0-16 year that sealed the Lions' fate. Was that the Vikings game at home? Because that was I referred to that on local radio as last hope. That was when they lost that game, you knew their fate was sealed. Because again, if I'm not, they had the Saints coming up, they had Green Bay, and I think there was one other game that you knew they weren't going to win. Like that was like the fate was sealed game. Oh, it was just devastating. Oh, that was just devastating. Jim, it was awake. Yeah, it was Blake. It was. I will never forget.
Yeah.
Like I'm serious. Like I have fun with people. I have fun with other fan bases. 1967 bitch, all that stuff. Man, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
Yeah,
No
that's
way.
horrible. I hated when St. Louis went through it.
Oh, hey, let me tell you about Lindsay Broadwell. When it is time to get yourself a house, you're buying, you're selling, both. You know what you need? You need to contact the right agent. Who should you contact? You should contact That lady right there, Lindsay Broadwell. Your house is probably the biggest investment you'll ever make, and that is why you need a pro. Lindsay grew up on the mean streets of Northville and has expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan. She's an expert in all facets of the business, and when it's time to move, our friend Lindsay and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and everything goes smoothly when finding yourself a new home. Buyer, seller, first-time buyer, doesn't matter. Make sure you contact Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com. She'll help you with everything from start to close. Make sure you go to BroadwellHomes.com. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. Didn't they move the Colts in the middle of the night? Yes. I still remember all those the images of all those trucks pulling out. Do you remember that out of Baltimore? They were, I saw it was Mayflower truck and it's snowing and all those trucks just blowing out. What? Come on, man. Jeez, oh Pete. It's unbelievable. All right, you wanted to ask me something. Seriously, Blake's been telling me he's got like a Q&A with me. I'm intrigued by this.
I just need you to do a quick costume change. Put on your Heisman voter hat.
There we go.
So Sean is a Heisman voter, and I am a college football nerd. And I have some questions that I've always wanted to ask a Heisman voter, and especially knowing you so well and just everything and how passionate you are about college football. It's just, I think they're good questions to ask, not just of you as a person, as a Heisman voter, but they're good to know just in general. So first of all, to start with the preseason, like what do you do? Are you looking at like the preseason lists, or are you creating your own kind of list in your head, whether it's in your head or written out? What are you doing preseason to get ready for the season for players that you want to keep your eye on?
That is a very good question. I have not had a conversation with others. I like to ask others questions, if that makes sense. I like to ask a couple guys, okay, so let me go back to the beginning. The country is separated into 6 regions.
Mm-hmm.
Like for people out there that don't know, it's there are regions, and there's like a regional head, and then you know a bunch of guys, and I've been in on some calls, and now with media being what it is, we've had some of these calls, StreamYard or Zoom or whatever the hell you call it and stuff like that. I have not had any kind of conversations like that, but I have a list upstairs, and if you could give me 5 minutes to run up and get it, I would, but I don't think it's necessary. And besides, I'm not allowed to talk about it. So there goes that idea. And I take that very seriously, by the way. But I do have a list with, I think there's 14 names on it right now. I think there's 14 names.
And those are the guys early in the season. You're just going to kind of go out of your way to watch their games, check their stats, see what they do.
And a lot of times, like I said, if there's somebody that I know in their region, here, I'm going to give you an example. And I know I told you this last year. I had a conversation with a guy who did not have a horse in the race in regards to the Heisman Trophy. And he said to me about a particular quarterback. He said, what was his moment? What was his Heisman moment?
Mm-hmm.
What was the moment that made you say, there it is? That's it. And I know more often than not, they don't have to be the dramatic moments. Like, not everybody can do Desmond Howard, right? Against your biggest rival. Not everybody can do that. I'll even use Charles Woodson as an example. Not everybody can do that. But there has to be a moment in a guy's resume where it doesn't matter who you're talking to. It could be 2 yahoos in Michigan, like you and I. But you and I would both sit back and agree and just go, dude, that was something. And one guy did not have that in his resume.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. And I know I told you that this at the time. I wasn't set on voting for him. I was considering him until he brought up that point to me.
Mhm.
He was right. He wasn't wrong. That should count for something. Like
Yeah.
if
It's
you're
that moment that you know that he's the best player in the country.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. If your great moment is beating a 6-6 football team or a 7-5 football team, it's lacking. Sorry.
Mhm.
So again, I'm not going to say I was going to vote for that guy, but that cinched my vote. And I had no problem voting for him. None. And
Yeah.
if I had to do it again, I'd vote for him again today to tell you how that goes. But sorry for being long-winded. Yes,
No.
I have a list, and I'll make some calls, or we'll schedule a call to talk about things probably 2 or 3 weeks into the season.
Okay. And then how much do you pay attention to like the talking heads and the magazines that I know you love? Like how much does that come into your preseason work?
You have to.
Okay.
You have to. To me, that's do you know what it goes back to? It's you're a fan. And I've had this argument with so many of the old school guys. The day I'm no longer a fan is when I leave this business. If I wake up one day and this is strictly a job, I'm done. That's it. Period. End of story. And I've had people say, well, you can't be a fan. I think that's bullcrap. I think you're taking yourself way too seriously. Yes, you are a fan. It's not just your job. You love football. You love whatever the case may be. I'm not saying that you've got your pom-poms out or anything like that, but yeah. So, yeah, to answer your question, you have to. I think you have to, but you do that as a fan anyway, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Austin said, Sean, don't watch anything preseason. Don't listen to nothing. Be just like the old BCS or college football and wait until week 8 until you have any sort of Heisman input. Many of Michigan's September Heismans.
But you can't do that because it is a whole body of work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No,
So,
no question.
yeah.
If I went back, the people that were all over me about Tate Forcier, it's actually really funny now. It really, and yet people even back then are going, "You're never going to give that guy his due. You're never going to give that guy his due." And I'm like, "Can you wait a
I told
little
you
bit?"
about the time I met him, right?
Yes.
He's
Yes.
legitimately one of the
Yeah,
dumbest human beings I've ever met.
He's not the I think I've told you this. I have voted for exactly now. When I say voted, not top vote. Contrary to popular belief, you're only allowed 3, a top
Yeah.
3. That's what people don't understand. Like it's who is in your top 5? Who is in your no? We get 3. I get an email, a double secret email. I put in my top 3. I hit the magic button, and then I crap you not, it's gone. Like it wasn't even there. Seriously, that's how it works. I've voted for exactly 1 Michigan player and 1 Michigan State player. So
And you have to physically like type in these names. It's
Mhm.
not like it's a drop down bar.
No, you
Okay.
have to type in there. Yeah, you have to type. So I voted for, and I don't have any now. I think
Can are you allowed to say like who they
I can
were?
say yeah.
Okay.
So the joke was in 2016. Can you guys admit that now? That there was somebody who burst on the Heisman scene because of hype and he didn't deserve to be there. And so I told people after the fact, a certain Michigan player, I said, stop it. Like that's no, he didn't. But I had Kenneth Walker on my Heisman, and I had Aiden Hutchinson on my Heisman. And I don't regret either one of them. Don't regret either one of them. So that I guess that's the most slappy I've been.
So when now, like, let's say, like week to week, what are you doing? Are you going back and going through those players that you have on your list? You seeing if there's other players that you need to be paying attention to, like week to week in the season? What are you doing?
Yes. It's fluid. There are names on there that I know are never going to go away.
Mhm.
Uh, I know I talked to you about one name that I really, really, really like. I think I can talk about it. I think that kid at Miami,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things in his favor, and I'm gonna keep a close eye on him. If they're as good as I think they're going to be, especially in that conference, I think you're going to see a hype train go for him, something fierce. But yeah, I mean, there are guys that you're going to have on, you're going to have off. I'll tell you point blank, when Hooker got hurt, he was my pick for the Heisman. I have no problem saying that. He was my pick for the Heisman. But then he got hurt, and you know, at that point in time, you're like, you can't do it. You just can't do it.
Like for example, and this isn't just me being a Joe Burrow slap, but like the year that he won the Heisman, there was no one talking about him before that season. So like, at what point in that season for a player like that is like just climbing up, like when do you start paying attention? Like, oh, I really have to keep an extra eye on this guy.
If I remember, I mean, it was 5 years ago now. I mean, that was obviously a special team. As the season kept progressing and they kept putting up bombastic numbers, I wish I could go back and gosh damn it. I would say about halfway through the season, we were having one of our conversations and every one of us was talking about Joe Burrow. Like our entire, and you got to remember, we're not in the South region. You know what I mean? So, Sky Dog, I got to call you out here, dude. Hold on. I saw something there, and I got to call you out there. And Blake, I bet you're going to agree with me here. Where was that line? Hold on. If I could learn to scroll down, idiot.
What, the Forcier thing?
Yes. Hold on.
I put it on the screen for you.
Okay. What's hilarious was after Forcier, there was another September Heisman. There wasn't once since, yet that stigma is still there for Michigan.
Yeah, it happens every year.
You don't want to stand on that, do you?
It hasn't happened in the last like 3 years.
Well,
no, I mean, actually, yeah, with Quorum, the year he hurt his knee.
Okay.
Even.
Okay. Shoelace.
Yes.
Come on, stop.
And that's the one he was saying, though, after fourth year, there was another September Heisman. I think that's the one he's referring to.
Okay.
And then after that, it's happened too.
Jabril Peppers, that whole thing was just a joke. Sorry. Yeah. It was
the guy that had one interception in his Michigan career.
It was a joke. I'm glad you could admit that. I mean, I had people, Shawnee P, you better be including Jabril Peppers. And it's like, I can't talk about it. Like, I can talk about it after the fact, but I'm like, stop it. It was 100% hype. It really, I mean, that's all it was. It was 100% hype. I could look it up.
He was a good player.
He was a darn good player.
He was not a Heisman candidate.
I can't believe he even finished fifth. I think he finished fifth, if memory serves me correct.
Yep.
What the hell are you watching? And that's no disrespect to him, okay? Because like you said, damn good player, but you're talking Heisman Trophy. Yeah, I don't think, I know you guys don't want to admit it. You guys were so desirous of wanting Michigan to be back that I think you had a tendency of putting guys on a pedestal. And I said this years after Shoelace left, okay? He wasn't that good, guys. He was exciting. He was exciting and put up bombastic numbers against less than defenses.
He was an electric player to watch.
Except when he played good teams.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, I mean, that was it, you know, but at that point in time, you needed something to cheer for, right? Yeah. I mean, people needed something to cheer for, you know, it was an era that nobody wants to live through, but yeah, the September Heisman thing lived for a while. It did that lived for a while I can give you a September Heisman in the interest of being fair. People were talking to me in 2008 about Javon Ringer. And I was like, Javon Ringer's a darn good running back. No way in hell am I going to put him in the top 3 of college football players. No way in hell. Like, nah. Oh, dude, you got to put Ringer on your ballot. In what world do I have to put Ringer on my ballot?
No, but and again, like, this is coming from a college football nerd. I love the pedestal. And you talk about it in the way that I imagine it. The Heisman Trophy is there's a pedestal to it. You can't just throw names in there willy-nilly. Like, it's a very, very special, prominent, historical award. You can't just like, that's why I get frustrated with the whole September Heisman thing. You can't just like it means something to college football fans.
And like Bill Jabril was legit. He was.
He was a
He
very
was
good
not
player.
a Heisman Trophy candidate.
Yes.
Like, stop it. And I know you're not saying that, Bill, but yeah, I don't want anybody to misconstrue. I'm not dogging the guy. Heck of a player. He wasn't a Heisman Trophy candidate.
Just
knock it
re-signed
off.
for a bag in New England.
Yeah. I don't remember another player from another school being called a September Heisman. It's like it became a running joke. Oh, okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's certainly around here that was more directed at Michigan than anybody else. You're right.
So with
Arm pump McDreadlocks. I forgot about that, Jason. That's awesome.
how does like your work with Wayne State affect how you evaluate and stuff like that?
Oh,
like, is it just you're going back and watching games?
yeah,
throughout the week?
it's immensely. It's like, honestly, I mean, so our mutual friend Brady Beaton, my broadcast partner. When we come home from games, I have to listen to games. I have to, like, whether I'm driving or not, it's inconsequential. And thank goodness for satellite radio. I have to listen to games and the highlight shows and everything, and then I go home. And I know you and I have had this conversation before. What people don't understand, and I figured this out when I was doing the Toledo games, you can't come home from a game and just go to bed. Like, you're jacked up. So
Yeah.
a lot of times, and you know this, you and I will text each other sweet nothings at about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning and things like that. But a lot of times I have to not only stay up and watch the highlight shows and stuff like that, but if there's a game of interest on, I'll speed watch it off the DVR.
Yeah.
You have to. Like, you have to. I take it very seriously. You have to do your due diligence,
100%. No, and the difference for you too is through your whole career, you've also been doing Lions stuff
Mm-hmm.
and you have to pay attention to everything. It's not like you're just a college football writer or college football whatever. So it's not like you can spend your Sundays going back and watching everything. So it has to be spread out a little bit, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But you still do your due diligence and everything, which is
Austin
awesome.
said, question, why not ever defense for Heisman vote? I think you have to be superhuman. Really. That's just the way it is. I know I voted for a couple guys on defensive, not one, but I voted for, I included, Sue was on. I know Hutchinson was on. I know I'm leaving guys out. I know I am. Sue was 2. Hutchinson, I put 3. If I went back,
and what was your first year?
08.
Okay.
So I know I've put multiple guys on there. Charles Woodson made it a no-brainer. Like, honestly, I wasn't a voter, but if I was a voter, Charles Woodson made it a no-brainer. It was the combination of what he did defensively and obviously his acumen in return games and everything. That electric.
Yeah.
I remember Monte Tejo. There was a groundswell for him, and I didn't get it. He was a good player. I watched him. He was a good player. But there was a groundswell of support for him. I think it really was the emotional vote until we all found out what we know now.
Yeah.
But Austin, it's a great question. I wouldn't have any problem voting a defensive player number 1. I think that defensive player, right, wrong, or indifferent, would have to be superhuman to win. Just my man's opinion.
Jason asked in the chat, so you would have voted Woodson over
100%.
Okay. Because that's
100%.
that's always a big thing. Like, there's the South people always are like, Peyton got robbed.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, do you have a Hobie Baker vote?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
Can I tell you why? The big player making the big plays in the big games against rivals, against damn good teams. And I know that wasn't a banner Michigan State team by any stretch of the imagination, but the one-armed interception.
Yeah. On
And
a
then
pass that was
obviously
like he was trying to throw away.
we know what happened with Ohio State. Sorry, that was, I mean, no doubt in my mind that was.
Meanwhile, Peyton was losing to Florida again.
Jason said, Blake, I'm up 28-7 on Oregon at the half. How bad is EA going to screw me in the second?
The second half, I feel like in the game right now is always easier.
Yeah.
They did a title update, not to go on a tangent. And whatever they did, whenever the offense shifts, it like makes all my corners just like all flip flop around. And then they just get a wide open guy. And I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
So it's been a real struggle because I like to play man-to-man coverage, That's how I roll.
Voters have to stop acting like the best player is the best player on the best team. Not only is it not true most of the time, it's lazy voting. I agree with you. Conversations. I've told you guys, I'm still one of the young guys.
But that didn't happen last year.
No, it didn't. It was
because if that was going to happen,
I told you there was a certain guy who twisted some arms and changed a lot of opinions. When he brought that statement up, I know he changed a lot of opinions. It was, you could kind of watch people do the same thing I did, go, ooh. Really astute point. Ray, Sue was so dominant in college. He's the poster child for a defensive player who could have won the Heisman as a defensive player. I think I voted him too. And I know that's when Killer and I were doing the radio show because like he told me, he was like, look, dummy, you better have voted for Sue, okay? And I was like, Define voted for Sue. He was like, you better be in your top 3. And I said, he is. I think it was 2. I think it was 2. Yeah, I'm almost positive. I know I didn't vote him 1, but it was 2. I'm almost positive it was 2. Do you remember the conference championship game? He was sick. He was sick that year.
Mm-hmm.
He really was. What was there another question?
Yeah, I had one other one. And we kind of touched on this a little bit, but like players that kind of come onto the scene later in the season, are you going back and watching like their past games, like even highlights on YouTube, whatever you can do?
Watching it, no. I think you know this, and probably a lot of guys. Can you take out that spam, by the way, whatever that spam is? I think a lot of you guys, I'm weird. I have a very strange memory. I can remember little details. Like somebody brought up 3rd and 24 to Randy Moss. Randy Moss wasn't in that game. I just, no offense. I know Randy Moss. I don't even have to look that up. So the 3rd and 24, sorry, I don't remember that specifically, but I know for a fact Randy Moss wasn't in that game in 2008. I can remember little things. You and I were talking about this last year. I'm going to go back again to that LSU Florida State game.
Mm-hmm.
The only way you can make people remember you is if you knock off somebody like that early in the season when nobody expected it. And so that stays fresh in your mind. No, I don't go back and watch because, like I said, I have a really weird memory. I know it's there. I know it's there. But yeah, you have to take the whole into consideration. Eric said he was on that game. Eric, without looking, I will bet you anything that Randy Moss was not with the Minnesota Vikings in 2008 in that game. I'll bet you anything. You know what? Hold on. I'm going to prove it right now. Can I look that up? Or are you looking it up?
I am looking it up.
Okay. Hold on a second. You guys talk amongst yourselves for a second, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I got it, Blake. I got it. All right?
Yeah.
December 2008. Tavares Jackson, Gus Frerotte.
Well, I can tell you he wasn't even on the roster. He was in New England.
He was with the Patriots.
Yeah.
Remember, he was part the year before. He was part of the perfect season that wasn't. So
during the season,
24. I'm sorry, I remember dumb things, but like I know for a fact Randy Moss wasn't on that team.
During the season, what are you and what are you not allowed to talk about?
We are
Just
not
so
allowed,
I know for like.
we are not
during
allowed
the
to
season.
talk about our vote in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
We can talk about certain players and things like that, but we can't. And I respect that. I think there are some cocky a-holes out there that like don't respect that, and I don't get it. Like, come on, man, it's an honor. Like,
Yeah.
I'm one of 924 people. Like, it's an honor. You asked me to do a soft shoe. I'll do a little dance for you. I'll do a song and dance for you. I mean, they want people to watch the Heisman Trust. They want people to watch the events. So yeah, I
No, I mean, I've told
Yeah.
you my legitimately like my career goal. One of them is to have a Heisman vote. That's very high on my list of something that I want to accomplish in my career because I think it's a really great honor. And it's like for someone like me that loves college football and pays attention to so much of it, I think it's something that is good to strive for, and it's something that I could add to it. You know what I mean?
It was I have no other way to say this. It was like one of the coolest things ever. Like,
Yeah.
I think I told you I was on my way to, was it Notre Dame, Stanford? I don't remember. But I was on my way to, I know it was Notre Dame. Was it when we went to Notre Dame, Stanford, or was it Notre Dame State? I don't even remember. But it was before I started working for Wayne State. And my wife called me and she said, "You have to call." I don't even want to say his name. You know who it is. She said, "He just called the house. Can you call him?" And I was like, "Wow, that's weird that I'm hearing from him." And he called the house. "What's up?" And she goes, "You need to call him." And I'm like, "Did something happen?" And she was like, "I promised him I wouldn't say anything. You need to call him." And I'm like, "Just tell me everything's okay." And she was like, "Yes, everything's really okay."
Yeah.
And so when I called him, he didn't beat around the bush. He was like, "Hey, do you want to be a Heisman voter?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
Like, I was 38 years old, man. I was happy as a, I'm not joking. That's one of those things like you, like Saturday Heisman night in December. I'm already sitting down in front of the television watching Hockey Night in Canada. That was something you turned the channel from channel 9 to channel, I think it was the presentation at the time was on 7. So I'd turn, click, turn it 2 things and watch the Heisman presentation. That's part of growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So to be in that group, yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I don't you guys, I don't take myself very seriously. That's pretty stinking cool. There's no doubt about that.
100%.
Yeah. How many guys that they show on the Heisman Trophy show make you go, "Wow, I forgot he won. Remember who finished second better?" That happens though, right? When they bring out the parade of winners. Yeah, yeah. So that's the way it goes. All right, we got a couple. Blake, you and I have just been bull crapping tonight, man. I can't believe we've gone this long, right?
You guys talk college football. This is what happens.
What happens? Yeah, you guys, you all better prepare yourselves. All right, that's just the way it is, man. Let's talk about a couple of guys that love college football, and those two are my friends at the Wealth Advantage Group. And if you're ready to take charge of your financial future, look no further than the Wealth Advantage Group. They're located in historic downtown Northville and owned by 2 brothers with over 20 years of industry experience. They understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are. That's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning. Now, whether you're saving for retirement, getting ready to sell your company, already in retirement, they can help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients throughout all stages of life and have clients in over 20 states. The investment world, it is a complex one. So if you're ready to start taking your finances more seriously, it's time to work with a couple of experts, the Hanson brothers right there. Reach out to the Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574 or view their website at www.wealthadv.com. thewealthadv.com. Eric said, Sean forgot the year Dante DeMoss. I'm telling you, that wasn't 2008. I was at that game, and I know it wasn't 2008. Moss wasn't on the team. Culpepper wasn't on the team. Yeah, I can't remember the year. I'm sorry about that, Eric. Maybe you can look that up. The strangest thing is, I don't know how it happens, and it doesn't happen every year. I think I told you this. Sometimes I get some paraphernalia from people, like they get your address and they just bomb you with stuff. Like the Toby Gerhart year, I got so much.
You told me that.
I got so much the Toby Gerhart year, like pencils, pens, just so many little things.
Doesn't Iowa like send out like a notebook every year or something like that?
I think
I've seen it.
I think one year I got something from Iowa. I don't remember which year, but I mean, that's stuff I give to my son and his friends. Now I'll just give it to you. You know, Jack's not around, so I'll just give it to you.
Yeah, I want it all.
Let me get into legacy really quickly. Did you know that thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called our friends at Legacy to get help with their home and auto insurance? Great guys, I'm telling you, Joe and Dave and Alex. They are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents. They provide a full-service, one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. Legacy helps people like me and my family by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you. And yes, save you some money. We could all use a little of that right now. Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're probably paying too much and you could be underinsured. What are you waiting for? Get your quote. Give Legacy a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, your business insurance needs. Call them today, 586-209-4106, or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quotes. All right, Blake, anything else before we get out of here?
No, thank you for letting us all peer into a Heisman voter's mind. No, seriously. Like I said, I think it was, and I know other people have said it in the chat, it's cool to kind of see that from that perspective.
It's pretty cool. That's I don't, there are two things that like I hold near and dear to my heart that like, honestly, I called a game in the National Hockey League. Like put that on my gravestone. I win, and I'm a Heisman voter. Those are two things that, like, after 29 years in the business, those are two things that I'll actually pat myself on the back for.
Nobody can take them from me, my friend.
But other than that, I don't care. Like,
that counts as a jar, by the way.
It does not.
It does.
Have a great weekend. We'll talk soon. See you later. Bye-bye. God bless you.
Off the Air with Sean Baligian, featuring Sean Baligian and Blake Majchrzak. Produced by Todd Losey and Blake Majchrzak. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Play It Loud by Jam Studio. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the unsyndicated podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Off the Air with Sean Baligian on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Got something to say to Sean? Call the unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.